The city of Houston is kind of fucked when it comes to coaches. I think about 9 months ago, the Houston Astros fired their general manager. About a month ago, Mike D'Antoni decided to leave the Houston Rockets. And yesterday, Bill O'Brien was the first coach fired in the NFL.
Sad day for Jacksonville Jaguar fans. Very joyful day, I'm sure, for Texans fans. It was long overdue. I think he completely blundered that offseason. He got rid of his top player. I mean, I guess you could say Deshaun Watson is top player, but I mean, DeAndre Hopkins, all pro receiver, got rid of him for a injured, aging running back in a passing league with a quarterback who obviously needs a star receiver. Every quarterback needs a star receiver. That was baffling. He obviously it kind of all started with that 24-point lead they blew to the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, I guess some would say that they were lucky to be in that position anyway, but they didn't capitalize on being up 24-0 against the Chiefs in the playoffs. I think it was long overdue. I mean, truth be told, he's always been a iffy coach. He took advantage of a shitty AFC South. And to me, it actually puts in perspective the Jacksonville Jaguars situation. He's won, I think out of the 6 years he's been there, he's won four AFC South championships and has made it to the playoffs, obviously, all those years. Compared to Dave Caldwell, who's been there since 2014, and they made it once in the 2017 championship run. That was it. And Bill O'Brien got fired, obviously after just a debacle of an offseason. That was like pretty ridiculous. Spent all that money and really nothing shows for it through the first 4 weeks. Put Deshaun Watson in just a total shitty situation. But if I'm comparing his record to what Jacksonville's done since Dave Caldwell has been there, it's actually better. so so to me, it puts that in perspective. I still think it was long overdue because he's never really been a good coach. He's been middle of the pack and kind of just always taking advantage of a shitty AFC South. He got a franchise QB out of being there. I don't know how much of that was him, but you know, it was long overdue. But he also, I guess, wasn't as bad as people are making it seem because it was just this offseason was just questioning. Even if you didn't watch football, you're like, what the hell is he doing?
Yeah, it was definitely odd to see what he did this offseason. A lot of people are saying he just tore the team apart. I think when you compare the two, though, he's had success, like you said, in the AFC South, in a weak AFC South. I think when you're looking at Dave Caldwell, though, he made a run in 2017 that almost got him to the Super Bowl. So he's kind of given a higher ceiling almost. But I think if you're talking Dave Caldwell, I mean, yeah, unless Jacksonville turns it around, I don't see him really staying in Jacksonville after this year or even through well, he'll probably stay through the end of the year, but I don't see him staying past this year unless Jacksonville can make another run like that. I think with Bill O'Brien, he's kind of consistently been, successful in the AFC South, but he's never really taken them past the hump. I mean, they haven't gotten into the AFC Championship game at all. So I think considering the moves he's made and the weapons he had and just kind of got rid of, I think this wasn't really a surprise. But at the same time, I am surprised he got let go this early. Didn't really get to show off. And I think actually they had a pretty tough schedule to start the year, so he didn't really get to show off everything he could with the team that he has, albeit he hasn't done anything to make that team better and hasn't really planned for the future very well, investing in Laramie Tunzel and Kenny Stills, giving up a first and second round pick for them. Kenny Stills hasn't really produced, although Laramie Tunzel is he is a Pro Bowler and a pretty good centerpiece to their offense. But like you said, he got rid of their top playmaker in DeAndre Hopkins and traded it for questionable talent, and then thought he could replace him with someone like Brandon Cooks and gave away, what was it, a second round pick for Brandon Cooks?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think this offseason was his. He might have been on the hot seat heading in just because, like you said, he hasn't taken advantage of a weak AFC South, taken advantage of having a franchise QB and, the talent around him. Like I said, coaching-wise, he hasn't always been that good, but it was, a weak AFC South, the talented team was able to carry them to the playoffs. But once it got to the playoffs, they always seem to fail. But I just think this offseason, like right now, heading into that situation as a new coach, it's almost like you are excited about it. You have a franchise quarterback, but then you're like, dude, I don't have a first and second round pick. Going into the season, the Texans have played the Chiefs, Ravens, and Steelers, who all obviously are kind of top of the NFL right now. The only one who has lost the game is the Ravens, and that's because they played the Chiefs. But I think the reason he got fired after this game was because they played the Vikings, who have not done much this season. So I think that the owner was like, dude, you lost to the Vikings. I get it, giving you the pass for losing to some of the top AFC teams, but I think it was almost as if the owner was waiting for him to fuck up and lose to one of the, I guess, quote unquote bottom feeders. Not that Vikings are that bad, but they started the season horrendous, and he just canned them. He's like, I had enough of your butt chin. Get out of my face. So it's a tough situation for the next guy coming in just because of those draft picks more than what he has, because they have a franchise quarterback, but those draft picks and the cap situation and stuff is just, that's not a good look.
Yeah,
that's not
like you mentioned,
marketing.
Yeah, like you mentioned, they do have that franchise quarterback, which is a good thing. But yeah, without those picks, you kind of hope for them to make a splash in free agency, but they can't even do that because of their lack of cap space in 2021, especially given the COVID situation and the expectation of the cap going down. They're going to have to make some cuts to some big name players. What do you think the future is for them, though, for the rest of this year? Romeo Crennel, another former Bill Belichick disciple who hasn't really had much success in the NFL, is taking over. I think the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator are going to start calling plays. Did Bill O'Brien call offensive plays?
This year he started to call offensive plays, and it shit the bed. So
yeah,
then it almost made him look worse. I would have just said, I'm not calling that shit. It's that fucking stupid coordinator.
I talked to you offline briefly about this, how it just happens to be Jacksonville again, who has to face now a kind of revitalized team under a new coach, with a very positive attitude going into this game. It's the worst case scenario for Jacksonville once again. How do you see them playing this week and kind of going forward for the season?
This week they're going to kick the shit out of Jacksonville. Even if they had Billy Butchin, they still would have beat Jacksonville. Deshaun Watson would just pick him apart, even if he has zero weapons on offense. With that, Jacksonville's defense is just unreal, and not in a good way. Going forward, though, Romeo Crennel is going to be the intern, but Romeo Crennel really hasn't had much success as an NFL head coach. I think he's just there as a gap until they bring in the next guy, whoever that's going to be. Going forward, they're still not going to win many games, but they will. I think they'll be better off without him, just because that seems to always happen when a coach leaves. It's like that. I think it kind of lights a fire under one. Like, shit, he's gone. He's the guy who brought us in here. Now we have to put out good film. We don't know who's going to keep us next. So it always kind of, I think, rejuvenates a team, and they always play hard for the, almost for the future, because they're like, the next guy coming in, he can do whatever he wants with me. He can even look at Deshaun Watson and be like, no, I don't want you. I'm going Trevor Lawrence. So I think for going forward, they're going to be a better team without him, just kind of for that simple fact. I don't know how much better Romeo Crennel is than Bill O'Brien, but
Well, he's definitely not playing for Trevor Lawrence because he can't get him. But yeah, I think this year it's going to be rough. I mean, the teams do usually rally behind kind of new coaches, but like you said too, they're going to have to put on a display for the next coach coming in because their job isn't guaranteed. Usually, with coach changes come regime changes, and the new coach isn't going to like the system that's currently in. They're probably going to want to implement their own style and players that fit that style. So current players on the team are not going to fit whatever new coach comes in. Top candidates for coaching, though, rumors have been going around. Of course, Romeo Crennel. He'll probably be the first guy interviewed, considering the fact that he's interim, so long as he doesn't fuck it up anymore. Dabo Sweeney, former coach for Deshaun Watson in college. He's a big name, and kind of the two big offensive masterminds of this season, and Eric Bialmy and Brian Dable. Do you think it'll be one of those four guys, or do you think it'll be someone else? Or is it just way too early to call at this point?
I think it's way too early to call at this point. I mean, looking at those coaches, like I said, Romeo Cornell has already kind of had a track record, and he's better as a coordinator than he is as a head coach. But yeah, he'll probably get that interview just for already being in the system there, this and that. You know what I mean? I don't really see Dabo Sweeney coming into the NFL. I think he's a perfect college coach. He's crushing it over there in Clemson, recruiting process, all that. He's like everyone wants to play for that guy. I don't see him leaving that. Almost like Nick Saban. He's a perfect college coach, and I think he has the self awareness to know that. And to him, like that, Sweeney comes off as a guy who would rather just stick to the college game than move on to the NFL. But his name keeps coming up, and I just think because that always happens, all the hot coaches in the college, game always get kind of pushed into the NFL talk. But I truly see him staying in Clemson. I think the Eric, I don't even know how to say his last name, Belimo or whatever, from the
Kansas
Kansas
City.
City. I could see him going there just because of Deshaun Watson. I could see him potentially being excited about having a franchise quarterback. What he's done with Patrick Mahomes, I could see him being excited that he's got a piece there. Again, like not having a first round pick and second round pick and all that sucks for any coach coming into that situation. But him having that piece to play with where okay, I already got a good quarterback in hand. He has like crazy sweet formations and like he'll have his punter lined up there, a wide receiver, and everyone's like, "What the fuck? Screen pass, punt on third down." He does like crazy shit like that. So I could see him being excited about that opportunity because he already has a quarterback in place. And then kind of same with Brian Dable, like what he's done with Josh Allen so far. And again, just the fact that Deshaun Watson is a quarterback there, I could see coordinators being excited because they're like, okay, we got a guy who can make all the throws and has a lot to his skill set that we can give up that first year. We can give up the building for the future because we don't have those picks. Because I think for the most part they're going to enter that rebuild and they want to evaluate who they can evaluate. But if they already have the quarterback situation set, you don't have to evaluate them that much. So I see if it's anybody out of that list, I can see the Kansas City Chiefs offensive coordinator taking over just to have fun with Patrick or have fun with Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at Watson, he's kind of got that same skill set as Patrick Mahomes, so it's really just kind of seeing how Andy Reid built the Chiefs around Patrick Mahomes and just kind of doing the same thing with Houston. Now, Houston were 0-4. Like you said, their first four opponents weren't really, a walk in the park. So I guess to jump over into the NFL power rankings, unless you think there's some other coach that might be a front runner over those four
No,
guys.
I think those guys are the ones that are just being talked about the most because they're like the next candidate for every NFL team who needs a new coach. So
Yeah. Well, before we jump into the power rankings, did you want to touch on who you think might be next? There are, what, three other winless teams between the Giants, Jets, Texans, and Falcons. Dan Quinn is apparently still keeping his job. There's no news coming out about him losing it just yet. Uh, to add to that, I mean, Detroit Lions, their coach has been in the news lately about just kind of his shitty attitude about going things, almost pointing fingers at other coaches and players, saying that he kind of inherited a shitty team, which is debatable. Did you want to touch on who might?
Yeah, I think all those guys. I think right now in the hot seat is basically all the win, except the Giants just hired their coach, so they're going to give him time. Adam Gase should have been fired years ago. He's gonna get his head punted out of New York City when this freaking, if not by the owner, by the fans. So he's out for sure. Gary Vaynerchuk might go over there and twist his neck. That guy's. I'd hire Gary Vaynerchuk to be the head coach instead of Adam Gase at this. Honestly,
just motivational speeches.
Yeah, he'll just fucking tell.
I don't know how to call plays.
Listen. I don't know what play we're going to hear, but put it on TikTok 4 times a day. So I mean, Gase is definitely gone. The Texans obviously just fired, and then Atlanta Falcons, barring a 12-4 record. There's no way they keep Dan Quinn. He's been on the hot seat for the last 2 years, and I think it's officially on fire. He's out. And I could see the Detroit Lions. I could see Matt Patricia. He's handling everything wrong, it seems like. Everything coming out of Detroit is just like, we hate this guy. Why is he the coach? So I could see him going for sure. And then also the Jags. I could see them letting go of Doug Marrone at the end of the season. So
yeah, I was gonna say, do you think Doug Marrone's looking at possible exit before the end of the year? Or, I mean, you've been really hard on Todd Walsh, considering how bad their defense is playing. Do you see Todd Walsh maybe getting canned before Doug Marrone, or them just holding on to both until the end of the year and then making a change?
I think if Todd Walsh hasn't been fired yet, they're going to hold on to him. Because to me, I think Todd Walsh should have been fired after the 2018 season. He still had the same pieces as that 2017 season, and they shit the bed. They didn't really play good at all. So I think after that season, he should have been fired. But regardless, they kept him until now. If he hasn't been fired yet, and the defense is historically bad for these 4 weeks, they're going to ride with him for the end of the season. Because if I'm looking at it from a Doug Marrone standpoint, he was told he has to make the playoffs or he's out. And this team right now with this defense is nowhere near the playoffs. And maybe if they lose to the Texans and they go 1-2 in their division, maybe he's gonna be like, all right, Todd Walsh, you're out. Maybe he's holding out hope that they'll beat the Texans and still be alive in the division. But if I'm looking at this and like what's stopping my team from winning now is the defense, and there's no sense of urgency to fire Todd Walsh. It almost feels like Doug Marrone knows his days are numbered, and he's just like, I'm going to keep my guy here in a job, not let him lose a job. He's got kids and everything, and we're just going to ride the season out and find jobs at the end of the year. Because truth be told, if you're trying to win and your defense is what's holding you back, you're gonna shake up that defense to give you a chance to stick with this team. But it could be that Doug Marrone doesn't even want to be on this team anymore, and he's just riding it out for his own resume to make it like so he didn't quit on the team. I don't know, but I could see Todd Walsh going before Doug Marrone if Doug Marrone feels like, okay, finally, like get rid of him to make it look like he's trying to win, or I don't know what the hell is going on over there. He should have been fired a while ago. But I see them, if he hasn't been fired at this point, I see them riding out the season with both of them.
I mean, would Doug Marrone be the one to make the call on whether or not Todd Walsh gets fired, or do you think that would come from Caldwell?
No, that usually comes from the head coach because, he builds his coaching staff how he wants his coaching staff. And, I mean, when he fired Natty Hack in that 2018 season, he fired him. It wasn't – unless, Tom Coughlin, threatened him or something, but
yeah, right. Which wouldn't be surprising considering
everything he's done since he came back to Jacksonville. But yeah, no, I see him making that call before the GM makes the call.
Thank you for listening in to this clip of the Moose Bros podcast. If you enjoyed this, please like, comment below, and subscribe to this channel to see more clips just like this one. If you want to listen to the whole podcast, you can find us at Spotify or Apple Podcasts under Moose Bros Sports.